Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, show 295, recorded at Big Dog Studios in Eugene, Oregon. Today's show is brought to you by
Mud Pod Design House. Do you have a website? Are you happy with its traffic? The answer is no. Get a free website SEO audit from Mud Pod Design at mudpoddesign.com/free-SEO-audit. ThePracticalHerbalist.com. Get info on plants and plant medicine that's supported by science and tradition at ThePracticalHerbalist.com. We make herbalism practical and easy. ThePracticalHerbalist.com.
Now here are your hosts.
I'm Candace Hunter.
I'm Patrick Hunter.
And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. So Patrick, I now have a bona fide reason for all that incense I like to burn.
Oh yeah? What's that? What is that? What is your bona fide reason?
I'm healing you. I'm healing all of us.
Oh, so it's so all of us in the house that's affected by the
incense. Yes.
Yes. Well, and I like some of your healing incense, and I don't like some of your healing incense.
Yeah. I learned how to make incense from Dawn years and years ago.
Yeah.
And I did for a long time make my own incense.
I do remember that.
And I like that the challenges I had at the time, part of the challenge I had at the time was that I never quite mastered the whole making a cone so that it just burns on its own.
Oh,
so
okay,
I always had to get the charcoal bricks and then actively add, which is terrific when you're focused on the incense and you're doing ritual or you're there with the intention of being fully present.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember using we had a special brass chalice that we just found it. It
Sensor.
It's a sensor. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Sensor.
And I remember, like especially if there was illness in the house.
Yes. Yeah.
We would do camphor and a few other things.
Camphor and some others. Yeah.
I would walk through the house, and in every room and do that. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I did that, like the camphor I did because Dawn at one point said, try this.
Right.
And I found camphor crystals and we did, and it was helpful.
Yeah.
And as I was doing it back then, I was doing it partly because Dawn said so. And I know that Dawn knows what she's talking about. And I felt confident because I also knew that she understood the medical side of things. And at that point in my own experience, I was uncomfortable with, I didn't want to make a spiritual choice that would somehow be physically harmful. Mm-hmm. And I didn't always understand. Now I can make my own choices. But back then, I just did what she said.
Right.
I didn't think about the fact then that the camphor wasn't just healing on a spiritual level and clearing out the bad juju. It was also antibacterial. Helps your respiratory system, regain health and well-being.
Right.
Although now I'm like, well, duh, that's pretty obvious. But back then I didn't always see those connections. Mm-hmm. But now I admit that I don't make my own incense very often. Every now and then, like every year and a half or so, I'll pull out my resins and my leaves and flowers and stuff, and I'll make a really small batch, and I'll pull out the mako, I think it was called mako powder, which is a specific tree that people like me would use this. It's one of the ones we can use to create a self-burning incense cone. So I'll do that, and I'll create my self-burning incense cone, and the first 2 of my series of, let's say, 10 will burn terrifically. And then the rest will not. They'll burn like a quarter of the way and then go out. And I can't get them to relight and stay lit.
Right.
And I'm sure there's techniques and things I could be doing better. Mm-hmm. And maybe in future at some point I will actually investigate, learn, and do better. But for now, no. I've got too many other things going on in my life. And there's a lot of good sources for good incense.
Right.
So I just tend to buy the incense from people who know what they're doing. And when I'm lighting it in our house, it's partly about the spiritual aspects, but it's also about knowing that I need the air and the space to be healthy. And I want the people, all of us us who live in this space to feel healthy. So I'm making my choices partially on a physical health as well as spiritual health mindset.
Mm-hmm. Now you don't do that as much anymore, as far as making your own.
No, I don't make my own very often anymore, although I still have, the resins, if you take care of them, they last forever. So I still have those and the other, the sticks and leaves and berries and all of that are just part of normal herbal practice. And yeah, I've got that stuff too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I still have mako powder. So, I certainly can.
So are you going to be inspired?
I've thought about returning to incense making a little bit more frequently, but I haven't yet committed because of the frustrations I've had with my own.
Right.
Although I do really enjoy making incense to burn on the censer, on the little charcoal briquettes.
That method is faster. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like when you do you do some really nice Japanese incense stuff that you get, and I really enjoy it, and it burns for quite a while.
Yeah.
But when you make it on the
censer,
it's relatively quick. Those charcoal briquettes are really hot.
Yeah.
And it goes really quickly, but your intention there is so focused that it all is working together at the same time. You don't just put it on there, walk away.
Right.
You're almost like you're tending the fire, you're tending the herbal thing. And when it burns out and it's going to burn quickly, you put some more on there, and then you tend that, and you put some more on there, and as you walk through in our case, as you walk through the home, that's so there's it's a different level of intention, which
it is, as the young people like to say.
I always
intention.
have that. Yeah, I always have that problem with that. I don't like some of the words have been co-opted. So that bothers me. But lack of a better term, your intention of what you're doing. When we're using the censer, it's usually to clear out the house, energetically speaking, or disinfecting the house, both energetically and physically, or maybe we did cooking all day and there's smell that we don't like in the house, so we'll do that, and it'll just kind of clean everything out. It'll change it over. I don't.
So. When we use incense that I've made, it's always with a very specific purpose for that day, that time. I almost never make more than, at this point. Like I said, I've tried the cone thing and I've made 10 cones, and small percentage actually burn. The rest end up having to be on charcoal briquettes because they didn't. So instead I make enough incense for the day. So it's really small amounts of everything that I'm putting in. Mm-hmm. And I'm making it for whatever the reason is. If I need to clear cooking smells out of the house, I just get the Morning Star out. But
okay.
But what you're really saying,
Morning Star, for the people that don't know what that is.
Morning Star is a very easy to come by Japanese stick style incense. Okay. It also comes, I think, in cones. Oh, okay. And it's prevalent. You can get it super easily at every.
Is that the smell that you walk into those stores? And you're like, what's that?
It's what we used to from Minnesota refer to as the hippie smell. It's the.
Yes. Okay.
But that's one of the ones that it's not very expensive. It's easy to find at any kind of herb shops and gift shops that have any kind of witchy vibe to them. They usually carry Morning Star. A lot of times natural grocery shops and co-ops will carry Morning Star. You can find it online everywhere easily. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I was being a neophyte, but I just didn't know for sure what that was. And if I figured I didn't know what it was, maybe other people didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And I think, in my opinion, because I'm not necessarily an aficionado, but in my opinion, there's several levels of incense, and Morning Star is I don't want to smell bacon in my house anymore, so I'm going to put on some Morning Star that'll cover that up, and then I won't notice the bacon. And then by the time both of them clear out, it'll be fine. It's your cheap, daily, very practical use incense. And then there's other incenses, like the handmade ones. I've found a few different makers on Etsy, for instance. Mm-hmm. If you just search handmade incense, there are people that do cones and sticks as well as loose incense that way. So those ones are more special from my perspective. So that's like the the medium to higher grade incense. They're special, they're handmade, and they're often really lovely scents with specific vibes attached to them. There's also companies like Shoyito, which is there's several lines that they have that are fairly common, maybe not quite as much so as Morningstar, but common good daily incense. You light them, and then they have some really, more higher end, more expensive, but
and it's funny, the higher end the incense, the smaller the sticks become.
I know. Right. But those ones are more like for daily use, for meditation use. There's a purpose, but they're not just to cover up a smell.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And then there's the stuff that you make yourself, or the very expensive stuff that you purchase that somebody else made, whether it's the really horribly expensive stuff that a company like Shoyito makes, or whether it's handmade from, like an herbalist or incense maker or whatever.
Right.
The stuff that's very expensive or that's really handmade and very special is the stuff that you sit down with and you really give all your time to it. You're not reading a book while you're lighting it. You're not playing on the computer or having a TV show on.
Yeah.
You're focused on the incense and the space of being with that incense. And that's the part where, for me, that's like when I was making my own, that's where I wanted to be, was, doing this with a ritual and being present with the plants that were a part of making that incense. So it's a way of connecting at a deeper level.
How do you know you're hitting the big time? When you see folks wearing your logo out and about. Ace High Graphics can help you get your logo out there with custom design apparel, like hats and hoodies and tees with custom bags and more. Ace High Graphics can do small runs as little as 10 items or hundreds to meet your needs. We'll help you be seen no matter how large or small you are. Visit acehighgraphics.com today.
A lot of times the plants that I've worked with at that level are also ones that are deeply healing plants, like frankincense or sandalwood or myrrh. These are very deeply healing trees.
Right.
And yeah. Anyway, that's my theory on incenses.
Well, they do spark a different, they're just different sensory. They're enveloping because they're what you smell.
Yeah.
And our sense of smell, really is a very powerful sense.
Yeah. And it is.
You can close your eyes and you can, well, for me anyway, you can smell something, identify it, and then put a picture in your mind.
Yeah.
I know not everybody can do that, but
right.
For me, and also scents can make you, you can time travel. I mean, you can hear or you can smell something that, mom's apple pie or dad's cigar or whatever it was when you were in your youth, and you'll smell that and it'll just transport you immediately to that scene, that moment.
Right. I mean, how many of us, if we catch a whiff of the perfume emerald, suddenly remember our grandmother's?
Right. Or with me, my
bedroom,
distaste of rose because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just those things. So when you have an incense, it's not just like when you have an herb that you see, you touch, it's tactile, it's there, right? You burn that herb. Mm-hmm. Now it's not only there, you see, it's in you. You're reaching in, and it's coming into your lungs, and your lungs are, they're designed to move that into the bloodstream super fast to get oxygen there. So all that stuff comes in, and it's all part of it. Before you know it, your body's inundated with this. Smell doesn't stop, or the things it's in the air doesn't stop at your sinuses.
Right.
That's where you may smell it. Right. Your senses there.
You become aware of it there, but it moves deep into your cells.
It moves deep into yourself very rapidly.
Yeah. That's part of why the fastest way to imbibe cannabis is through
a vape.
Yeah, through vaporizing or smoking it. Yeah.
Right. And or even if it's just like a mullein or whatever for healing, healing smoke.
Yeah.
Or,
it works the same. I mean, Cannabis is one of the ones, kind of like cayenne. When people say herbal medicine doesn't work, Sue used to always say, oh, well, what about cayenne? I mean, are you telling me that if you eat that, you don't notice any heat? Come on.
Right.
Cannabis is also one of those similar kinds of herbs. It shows you how rapidly herbs can work.
Yes.
You know, you breathe in an herb, within 15 minutes, it's acting in your body. In cannabis's case, you're feeling the THC, which alters your perception. You know immediately. You can feel it. In the case of mullein, or mullein or whatever, it's in your body. It's working in 15 minutes too. It's not working any slower. You just may not be perceptually aware of it because we oftentimes as human beings are not perceptually aware of a vast majority of what our bodies are doing, what the systems in our bodies are doing.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And when, as you were speaking there, I'm like, oh, that's why, when we were post-pandemic, when we were actually getting the flu or getting a cold.
Or pre-pandemic, yeah.
Pre-pandemic, we would, if I was coming under the weather or you were coming under, we'd do herbal steams, hot water, with yarrow and calendula and all these other herbs that we were throwing in there. And those essential oils were being released from the hot water and we're breathing it in and that moisture and those oils and stuff are coming right into our lungs. And
lubricating.
And I would feel, during the period of time, it would be really hot and it would be uncomfortable. But once I was out, it was, for at least those 10, 15 minutes, I felt really good. Yeah. And I know that I also had taken a lot of medicine. And, since we started redoing that practice, if you will, I noticed that our colds have gone a lot faster. Our flus were done a lot quicker.
Oh, yeah.
It was just something that I was like, people used to do this. Why are we not doing this?
Right.
And you're like, why are we not doing this? And so,
right. Well, we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. And we got our son to do it. We got him to think about it. So now when maybe he forgot because he hasn't been really sick since the pandemic started. Maybe he'll remember next time too that, I'm going to go get a steam because, and he would go in there and he would know what herbs to pull. And he would say this and he would do that. And so definitely that idea of sense and an infiltration of that throughout your entire body, even at a cellular level because of it is potent and powerful.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty amazing thing when you think about it versus ingesting it like a tincture or a tea or whatever.
You don't always have to eat your herbs.
You don't always have to eat your herbs.
You can breathe them. And you don't even have to breathe them through smoke. You can breathe them in
a vapor
other ways.
Or like a steam vapor.
Yep.
That's fine. There's other ways to do it. There's not just one way, always. There's many ways to the top.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, one of the things I love about Dawn is that she's very good at inspiring confidence to get you to give it a try. And it helped me at least get over inhibitions and fears that I had.
Oh, yeah.
And in doing so, she helped me open the doors to a much bigger, healthier, happier world.
Mm-hmm.
So Dawn's
absolutely
great.
No,
Dawn's awesome.
I mean, we've said it, and we said it, in the show a couple of times. I mean, she was really the start of, your herbal journey for sure. And then in turn, my experiments with it and understanding of it and, doing my basic herbal practice for me, through me, whatever.
Yeah.
So she's been an integral part of our healing regime for the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So a big thank you to Dawn for that.
Yes.
All right. So if you're, listening to this podcast and you've listened to a lot of Real Herbalism Radio and you've gone to the website and you've done your research and stuff, one of the things that keeps us from doing and practicing is our inability to become beginners again. Yeah. And making that choice because we don't want to do it wrong. Most people, I don't want to do it wrong. I want to learn, don't want it wrong. Mm-hmm. But the part that people forget to do is the only way that you really learn by experimenting and practicing and failing. I mean, honestly, if you make a failure, you know what not to do.
Yeah.
I've done it in woodworking. You put a finish on and that's not good.
Yeah. Like for instance, don't make your herbal cough medicine for a cough and sore throat with a heavy dose of spilanthes.
Yes, because you won't taste anything and your mouth is going to go numb.
Yes, and then you'll have that saliva production that happens as a result of
And you're not going to vomit, but you're going to have a lot of saliva.
Yeah, and it's very uncomfortable because it's hard to swallow.
Right.
So at that point, you're like saliva, and then you spit it out.
Yeah, it's just
where.
Yeah.
So that would be an experiment that didn't go great in my experience.
And every herbalist, every professional, every herbalist, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to have points in your career, in your practice or whatever, that you've made a mistake.
Oh yeah.
It just is what it is. But you learn so much from those mistakes. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Yeah.
And I know people don't like to hear that, but you do. And so there's no wrong way to start. The wrong way to start is to not start, is to not try it, And if you're going to do herbalism, just get the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah.
Go get some herbal teas that are already made, maybe.
Yeah.
Try them out. See what you like, see what you don't like. Herbalism can start in your front lawn.
Yeah.
Instead of if your family is, because I don't want to be sexist here, but if your man or your woman, whoever does the lawn care in the house, has issues with dandelion, well, then the other person says, oh, don't spray them, don't cut them out. I'm going to take the root. I'm going to take the leaves. We're going to have the leaves in our salad.
Dig them up.
That's a little bit of herbalism.
Yeah.
I'm going to, the buds are just coming in. Let's get those and fry those up and eat them. They're really good.
They are really good.
They're really good. The root, let's take the root up and let's dry that out and use that for a coffee substitute or a little bit of a liver cleanse or a few other things. So just on that one plant alone, I'm not an herbalist, and I just named 3 or 4 uses for dandelion.
I know.
And
it's impressive. And
right?
You are an herbalist.
Well, okay. Well, I don't think so, but whatever. But the fact is that simple plant that is a bane for people that want the quote unquote perfect lawn is your perfect entry point into herbalism.
Mm-hmm.
You get to eat it, you get to drink it, you get to enjoy it on a salad. I mean, there's so many things there with that one plant.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you're doing herbalism, and your failure rate on that is pretty low.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times with herbalism, I think people don't even realize they're doing it when they're cooking.
Yeah.
When they're adding garlic and they're adding, parsley and thyme and rosemary and sage. All of these are really potent herbs. Yes, they make our food taste really well, good, and they help things. But, there's a medicinal property to each of those, and they do a good job of what they do. You're doing herbalism right there when you're cooking in your kitchen. Yeah. And you didn't even know it until I just said, you're doing herbalism.
Yeah.
You may not have the intention of I'm putting sage in my trout because I'm trying to heal myself. You're saying I'm putting sage in my trout because I think it's going to make it enhance the flavor.
It tastes good.
It tastes good.
But it's also really good for your digestion and
exactly.
Helping.
Or, peppercorn, why is ginger served with sushi? Yes, it's palate cleansing, but it also helps with digestion of rice and everything else that you're bringing in.
Yeah.
So these are all, these culinary herbs and these foods that you've been just thinking are like, that's just what you do.
Oh yeah. Like
they're healing.
Let's talk about the sushi. I mean, the sushi rice itself is really high glycemic, but then when you add the vinegar to it, or the rice vinegar, you add a little bit of that to it, and suddenly the insulin reaction in your body drops way down.
Way down because of it. And I personally like that flavor in my rice, but
Yeah. But that's not why the sushi chefs have done it. It's not to help you enjoy your food more, Patrick.
No, I understand.
They do it because,
Yeah, they do it.
They do it, and then they're giving you ginger to make sure that you're digesting that raw fish that you're eating and raw vegetables that you're eating better, because ginger fires up the digestive system.
Right.
And even if you're eating completely vegetarian sushi, all those vegetables are raw.
Right.
Raw vegetables cool your digestive system. So ginger just helps to counteract that. It balances it. Oh, and then you're going to wrap some of that seaweed around it to help add the iodine and support your thyroid and your hormonal balance. I mean, I say that sushi might be a near perfect food.
Okay. But all right. I don't know where to go with that one, but I will say this, that you are an herbalist if you cook. You just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And you can take it that one step further if you really want to get into it. Remember, low-hanging fruit, risk it, fail, learn. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big lessons Dawn taught us was give it a try. Just give it a try.
Give it a try. So with that,
put an herb on it.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results and do not constitute a guarantee that you will achieve the same results.